Dhamma Jumden Dendi Shabba Dajamba Yanda Zobe Sanje Riba Dan Shabson Demban Devarish Jiden Jamba Jivu Deva Kano Jivananda Tadam Benanje Demba Sanje Jumden Dembe Shaja Tuba La Shate No Jodo Jazaja Dhamma Jumden Dendi Shabba Dajamba Yanda Zobe Sanje Riba Dan Shabson Demban Devarish Jiden Jamba Jivu Deva Kano Jivananda Hadam Benanje Demba Sanje Jumden Dembe Shaja Tuba La Shate No Jodo Jazaja Dhamma Jumden Dendi Shabba Dajamba Yanda Zobe Sanje Riba Dan Shabson Demban Devarish Jiden Jamba Jivu Deva Kano Jivananda Hadam Benanje Demba Sanje Jumden Dembe Shaja Tuba La Shate No Jodo Jazaja Kanze Kanye Zowo Jadamse Sajen Dena Kompate Mane Jiden Dena Joje So Deze Keba Jama Shaze Namda Konga Jodo Suzawa Yije Jadu Seje Chaban Jiden Samna Lambe Ba Gombo Chonye Jama Shaze Senjo Demba Chimen Daveje Sendo Dawa Jama Shaze Dije Jela Seba Sumaje Nyame Kenshen Jama Shaze Gombo Tuje Jedemba Tomje Jembe Dama Sonam Yenden Jazu Yendi Shinsha Maza Taben Desha Tewa Jungi Wenge Zonden Jidu Tenam Shoju wa Shinju Jama Zaza Chene Chewe Lanyanda Lava Tala Rabdene Shinga Tamba Yende Gindin Lanya Chaze Non Dibachi Yamisha Shingawa Soba Rangi Simi Yozo de Tene Sanje Demba Kama Rabi Mame Gyumase wa Chubruda Melong Loda Tenda Deshe Shinam Detrata Sonam Dia Tamji Sewa Yoga Bantam de Junjan Gada Nada Shiva Love Jimmy, Siva Zolan, Drawan Java.
To the teacher, the blessed one, the one God beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, moral of the world, supreme guide of beings to pretend, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate make offerings in hope refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one God beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Suradan, Lord of the world, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate make offerings in hope and refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one God beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, Lord of the world, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate and make offerings and go for refuge. When the supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced up 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then I prostrate. With pure bodies formed supremely pure, wisdom of ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, to you I prostrate. With supreme science, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, the 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the teacher having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean. To you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the low realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to that Dharma which pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with the realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts. To you, the sublime community intended virtue, I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew, a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the foe thoughts, and be delivered from the ocean of suffering, of aging, sickness, and death.
Sanje Shodan Soje Shodan Chanju Pato Dane Janus, Dagin Jeso Jebe Zonam Je, Jola Benja Sanje Dubush. Sanje Shodan Soje Shodan Chanju Pato Dane Janus, Dagin Jeso Jebe Zonam Je, Jola Benja Sanje Dubush. Sanje Shodan Soje Shodan Chanju Pato Dane Janus, Dagin Jeso Jebe Zonam Je, Jola Benja Sanje Dubush. Sanje Shodan Soje Shodan Chanju Pato Dane Janus, Dagin Jeso Jebe Zonam Dola Benja Sanje Dubush.
I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Pume Bumba Legeme, Della Pume de Deme, the Jinshi Bumba de Me, the Jinshi Bakaji, Kede Sanje Bumba, Dene Rajin, Rajin, the Jingo Lagana, Kaji Shinji, the Danya, Kaji Danim Beba, the Chita, the Jinshi, Kede Raji Yemen, Shimu Yuba, Rajidan, the Shimoda, Modo, the Jishi, the Kang, Kede Pumbo Mademba, the Jinshi Bakaji, Dene Tadu, Dene, the Pumbo Mademba, the Jinshi Bakaji. Kashima then Yemen, Tennis, Yavalamba, Yamba, Yavalamba, Yavalamba, the Shinship of Jim, Namang the Zesh and Kashit in the city. Maybe the Shinship of the Yavan Bechatata, Kashin Yavalamba, the tender Rashid, Daga with the comment, Tishan with the year again. Tedanyana Yanambo, Namaguja, Tombe, the Shinship of Chetabu, Thomas Musician, Medonshi Musician, neither Nimi Major and David and the Tada Medana Shivan de la Kama, Tada Tamela Shivan de la Kama, Kangi de Jinshi, the Botugusungu, Tenenyan de Bama, Major Nando Thomas, Rajin, Londe, Sajin, Yedu Shivan, Sambatema, Kanda Saji Jundeji, Sebamen, Juvenia Bategundi, the Jinshi, the Jinshova Rajiva, then the Brother Rajim, the Jinshova Rajim, and Rovandi Rajim, the Jinshova Shejava Radujivan, Junior. Kangiye duze nyere zonde dawata jeba beje tabeshin de kodam tema chance.
Chuck Solo.
Okay, maybe read from here. With the reflection perceived as a phase, no differentiations whatsoever can be made on the level of the appearance itself. Saying this part of the reflections appears as a phase, and that part does not. It is entirety of the reflections appears as a phase. So citing the analogy of how, though the entirety of the perception of the face in the mirror image does not exist as it appears, there is no contradictions in maintaining that such reflections arises dependence upon its causes. So in the same way, when the blue object appears as existing by virtue of intrinsic characteristic, no differentiations whatsoever can be made as to which part does and which part does not appear as existing through the intrinsic characteristics. Furthermore, what is perceived does not exist as a perceived in entirety. Nonetheless, it can be established that there is no contradictions
with the fact that the blue things is produced from its own cause and that it can produce its own effect. Now, if one can maintain the standpoint whereby, while there is nothing in the mirror image that exists as a face, as perceived, this does not lead to mirror image becoming non-existence. It would then become possible to uphold the standpoint whereby, although nothing within the entire field of the perceptions of a blue object exists by virtue of intrinsic characteristics, as it appears to, one can definitely still posit the existing of the blue object. This kind of clear differentiations employing the refined intellect as to how, in relation to form and so on, one distinguishes between the two. This is to be negated and this is not to be negated on the basis of the analogy of the mirror image is indispensable aid to finding the middle way view. So we should not be easily contained with the understanding of the role of the such analogies. So this is kind of, trying to, trying to, say that not intrinsically exist, but it exists, right? Not intrinsically exist, but it exists, right? Like the mirror image. Mirror image is not intrinsically exists, all right? And it still, produced from its own cause and conditions. So here saying the absence of intrinsic existing and born from the cause and the conditions and perfectly fit, perfectly match, right? Because of the things that arises from the cause and condition, because of something that happened to be existing relatively, means it is absence of intrinsic existence. So the essential schools thinks that if you negate the intrinsic quality of the phenomena and you are denying the existing of the phenomena. So the Prasangika school says, like the direction of the east exists because of the west exists because of the east, and south exists because of the north. So this existing is also not contradicted with the direction of the east, not intrinsically exist. Right? Direction of the east is not intrinsically exist, but it exists depending upon the west of the directions. Right? Tall exists, concept of tall exists, right? And the existing of the tall is not by itself, but because of the, comparing with short. So comparing with short, the tall exists. So not intrinsically exist, therefore things can arise, things can be exist relatively, dependently, with cause and condition. So this part of this, perfect balancing in the not truly exists, but it is dependent arising. So this was not being, understood in the essential school, like medieval autonomous and mind only, and a Suthantika, and a Vaibhashika school, and non-Buddhist school. So for them, if something exists, it has to be inherent. Without inherently exist, there is
there is no real, reality. There is no real reality without the being inherent existence. So, in view of this, the commentary says, while understanding the fact of the cause and effect, even in relation to the mirror image that has no intrinsic existence, what learned person would simply, on the basis of the perceiving form, feeling, and so on, that are not outside the realm of the cause and effect. So, cause and effect undermine these to be endowed with intrinsic natures. Therefore, although the learned person perceives these existing, they have no intrinsic arising. Chandrakirti thus drew distinctions here between mere existing and intrinsic existence. Furthermore, the Chandrakirti demonstrate above the things do arises, and here he demonstrates that there is no intrinsic arising, so he make the clear distinctions between arising and intrinsic arising. Without such distinctions, then existing things would exist in their own right, and things do not exist in their own right would then become non-existence. So in this way, one would fail to transcend the two extreme of the reifications and denigrations. In his commentary on the 400 stanzas, for example, Chandrakirti says, those who propound the existing of real entity consider things to be exist only so, uh, only so, uh, yeah, what's that? Propound extreme of the real entity considered to be existing only so long as they are thought to be possessed essence. The moment things are understood to lack the essence, they come to be utterly non-existence. For for then such things become non-existing as the horn of the donkey. They are thus compelled to speak in such dichotomous terms, so it is difficult for them to satisfy all their expectations. So those who propound this, like all the essential schools, who thinks that existing must be inherent or from their own right or their own essence. So for them, when we negate intrinsic quality, and they think is annihilating the existing of it. So if things still exist by negating the intrinsic existence, and they think this is like a donkey horn. So therefore, the being free from all extreme existence through understanding that nothing exists by virtue of its own essence, and being free of all the extreme non-existence, in that one can possess everything from the cause and effect to the very fact of the worlds possessing no intrinsic existence, appears to be distinctive interpretations of the noble Nagarjuna's thought by the master Buddha Palita and the revered, right, Chandrakirti. So the distinguishing two types of existence, two types of non-existing, is crucially important. So the two types of existing and inherent existing, non-existing and intrinsically non-existence, right? So, so there is existence, but no inherent existence. Things that is like a conventional realities are not a non-existing, but it's not exist intrinsically. So emptiness should be presented by the analogy of the reflections is found in the following from the meeting of the Father and Son Sutra. The Sutra says, just as the reflection of form, just as a reflection of a form with no intrinsic existence appears in the clear mirror, so understand phenomena such as tree. So, yeah, that is, one should understand the other analogy of the falsehood, how these analogies and their reference are to be correlated along the same line as the simple example of the mirror image. So even then, like saying that even the tree is not existing intrinsically like a mirror image. The mirror image not intrinsically exists, but still can be, arises from the cosmic conditions. So the tree too is born from cosmic conditions, therefore it does not intrinsically exist. So then the merit of the negating intrinsic arising on the both level of the two truths. This has two parts, the merit more readily avoiding the view of eternalism and nihilism, and number two, the merit of how cause and effect become the most tenable, the merit of more readily avoiding the view of eternalism and nihilisms. So root text says, since no intrinsic natures exist in either of the truth, phenomena are neither eternal nor annihilated. Again says, like reflections, all things are empty of intrinsic existence, and since no intrinsic nature exists equally in either of the true truth, so that of the ultimate and that of the conventional phenomena, such as form, do not intrinsically exist, they are neither eternal nor annihilated. Annihilations here they refer to the sense explained in the line. So at the time of the sprout, there is no extinction of the seed. The fundamental wisdom, it says, as they assert what exists before is now no more. Therefore, they fall, therefore, into nihilism. So this is like, things like, the Bali seed was no longer found to be existing during the Bali sprout. So therefore, who thinks that way is, so it kind of is literally saying is following the nihilisms. So saying that Bali seed is no longer existing during the Bali sprout, therefore Bali seed is non-existing. Right? Bali seed is non-existence. It's following nihilism. Karma they committed in the past life,
So it's no longer with you in the present time. Therefore, you say that karma was non-existence, is a nihilism. So, and if the karma is not a non-existence, it is not. It's true. One part is true that karma that you committed in past life does not exist in this life. That part is true. So, because of that, the karma you commit in past is become non-existing. Is not true. So, so that karma we call non-dissipated karma, right? Because the results still continue. Sometimes karma can be give rise the result for many lives, 100 lives, 500 lives. So the karma is proving the karma is not become a non-existence. So it's hard to determine that is with fixed. This is existing and this is not existing. For the mundane, it's very easy. Something happened in the past and found to be not existing in the present. Mundane always think that it's no more, non-existence. Right? So in the mundane, sometimes it says when things turn into something else, and that also interpreted in the mundanity is non-existence. Right? But but mundane sometimes the mundane says, you have the money, you bought the car or you bought iPhone, and your parents called you, so you waste all the money, and you says, not wasted, I have this, right? So sometimes there's things, it still exists. With, money that you gave me is not wasted yet. It's here, the result. So for them, for him individually, so there's that money was no more. There's contradictions. You also think that cost was no more, and you also want to prove that cost has not wasted yet. It is still giving rise to the result. So if something that has the giving rise to the result, and how can that be non-existent? If something is not found to be existing in the present time, how can that be a non-existence? So then, now this whole, the futures, the futures, the future is also sometimes the mundane that considers a non-existence. But when they, when they are, like for example, going to school or doing the business or building the house, so you are on the process. When you're in the process, you think the future is not a non-existence. So if future can remain possible to you, as it still not exist.
I have a question here. And that has to do with, when the present is gone, obviously there's effects, there's seeds which have not ripened. And those seeds require certain conditions to ripen. Those conditions may not exist. One cannot say they will never exist sometime in the future, even if it's beyond this life. But it's also true to say that those conditions, there's no guarantee that those seeds will ripen. Because for those seeds to ripen require certain conditions, and like if someone is studied to be a physicist and they don't get a job, maybe something will ripen in the sense that their intelligence has developed a certain way, but they may never in their future life become a physicist, which isn't to say there won't be any future benefit, but there's, even with the existence of karma, there's no guarantee that seeds will ripen, it seems to me, at least as they were initially intended. Like this guy wanted to be a physicist. One cannot say he'll ever become a physicist in future lives. One can't say that for sure. And that kind of raises a further implication that seeds ripening may not be inevitable, because the conditions, one may learn somehow to cut away the conditions. Of course, if one becomes enlightened or an arhat, those seeds may not reach their full potential. Even if they ripen, they may be ripe in a very stunted form, which won't have the emotional impact had they ripened right away. So I wonder if you could comment on this, because we tend to think when we study karma that effect is inevitable from a cause. My question is that necessarily the case?
That's why people always dare to speed in the freeway. So it's possible to catch. So it is also possible to not be caught. So sometimes people can successfully speed up in the freeway, not caught by the police. Sometimes they think, oh, it's not going to be caught. It's not possible. Maybe 50%, 50% are not going to caught by the police, and they speed up, they get caught. So the cause, the definition of the cause, cause is not defined with certainty of the effect. Cause means giving rise, potential. So cause. So therefore, cause to produce the effect, it also requires the corporate conditions to rely on in order for change. Cause need to change, disintegrate, right? So the cause being in the process of changing rely upon the other factors of the condition, like a barley seed, in order for giving rise to the barley sprout. So barley seed has to go through the process of changing. That changing is conditioned by the water, the soil, and the heat, and the wind. So that proves this result is not necessary, it is certain. It is certain in why it's need to rely on other corporate conditions. So the cause cause is not defined with certainty of the result, or cause is not defined with having a result already, right? So So now, so because of that, you say, oh, there is no guarantee. So virtuous actions and non-virtuous actions, maybe there's no kind of, that's not going to impact on the people's mind. Maybe it's true. Some people have no idea what is the virtue, what is non-virtue. So they think it's okay, unless you're caught by the law. So the law is your karma. So beyond that law, beyond the police eyeball, you have no karma. So that's here the saying everything. What is happening right now? What is happening with you? There is no result that you have experienced without their cause and the conditions, which means everything happening with you is due to its own cause and conditions. Without preceding any cause and conditions, no possible to effect, manifest. That part is right. If you understand that, and then this should be, powerful enough to impact, to influence the mind, to be more heedful, in the future. Otherwise, guarantees, no. Even the Buddha, Bodhisattva Buddhists, I'm not going to give any guarantee, right? So Buddha says, I cannot remove the suffering with my hand of the sentient beings, suffering of sentient beings. I cannot really transfer my realization to the others, right? And I cannot really wash your negativities by the water, but the only thing I can show you is the path, right? How to gain the realizations, how to find the path for yourself. So there is no guarantee. If you successfully, follow his teaching and digest the profound teaching of the Buddha, and then you may find your way to liberation. So that's the result is depending upon the cause and condition. The cause and condition has no guarantee. But anything happen to you, definitely, it has to be go through the cause and condition. So non-Buddhist school thinks that, every cause holds its own result, prior to the manifestation of the result, which means, so, even though you say there's no guarantee, but you have accepted the cause is pre-existing with their result. So which means it's a guarantee.
So it's predetermined? Like a predetermined?
Yeah, predetermined. And
right.
I think some of this, maybe scientists on the old time, they mentioned that the DNA holds all the futures in it, right? So this determining what's going to be happening. I heard that some, in Japan or something, but in Germany, so they test the small kids, and then they judge or determine this kid can, doctor, this kid can be athlete. So they decide to put those kids in that kind of, whatever they are suitable playground. So that is also, they probably, they already have experienced the result is not guaranteed. You cannot determine, by the cause or potential. Some people, no potential, they can make the potential, right? Potential is also dependent on their own cosmic conditions. There is no any pre-existing result. in any causes. So many times you see, you see the body tree in the rock, a body tree in the house wall. There are many. I saw this in some hotel in India. The brick, I think there's the wall is like brick. So from the brick, the body tree is spawned, the big one, Some places that just a rock, there's small sands in there, and there's flowers. And then where the people, trying hard to make to produce the flower, and they have a hard time having flower. so because of the conditions like that, And sometimes, in like a harvest, what do you call harvest, right? Yeah. Farming. In Tibetan word we use sonamba. Sonamba means, relying on the merits, luck. So farmers like named by that because sometimes the weather is good and there is a rain on time, but some certain conditions you are not going to have successful harvest. Sometimes the rain not rain all the time, but you kind of so you find can you just accidentally plant the seed with the good conditions. Yeah. Sometimes you have a very good harvest, and then at the end, all the elephant comes, the wild elephants destroy all the things. Right.
It's funny because when you describe it like that, it sounds like what some people, scientists or whoever, might say. It's like, oh, it's random. It's completely random. Like there is no order or anything like that. It just happens. But at the same time, like I think we've talked about it in class before that like random that's not entirely accurate. That like if things were random, there was no reason, so to speak, then there would be no. Forgot how you described it.
So there's no certainty in the process of the cause and conditions.
Right.
Certainty means every cause is not certainty with their effect, with the result. So because the cause, in order to give rise to the result, it has to go through many processes that depending upon other conditions, corporate conditions. So that proves the cause by itself is no guarantee.
Can you discuss puja in terms of cause and conditions? Because my understanding, which is probably wrong, but nonetheless it's my understanding, is that pujas are done to create positive causes and conditions. And yet we all know that like so-called primitive people can do, outside of the context of Buddhism, their own style of pujas. Like, for example, there were people after World War II who saw airplanes, and they thought if they built a big runway, that would cause these big steel birds to land, which of course didn't happen. But pujas seem to be based on the creation of positive causes and conditions. So could you say a bit about this, how puja relates to this? and puja's maybe not necessarily successful too, but maybe you can say a little bit about that.
As I mentioned, the farmer's harvest is, of course, it depending on the seed and good conditions, the weathers, and then fertilizers. And also, it requires the farmer's luck or merit, right? So the merit that created, can be created by benefiting other sentient beings, that you can cultivate the merits from benefiting others, and you can protect things, you can give things that is needed, people that you, and also the merit can be cultivated through by pleasing the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas, or the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So the puja is, sometime in the Hindi words, puj means showing respect, or kind of, through your activities, you have pleased, the deities or the protectors of the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas. In that way, you can accumulate the merits. So that merits can be, so merit is always, that one of the conditions from the agent. So my agent side, this is what I should have the quality to be able to consume the result on time or successfully. So as I mentioned, you have a good harvest at the end and all destroyed or all burned, right? So which means the individual, the farmers who lacks the merit enough to consume that result. So the puja is to cultivating the merit through pleasing, the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas, or the worldly gods, or some kind of spirits, or you can please certain communities. By pleasing them, you can accumulate the merits. Yeah, puja is just to please someone. So many group of people, or many great persons being thrilled or delighted by your offering or your service, and then you gain the merits. So there's some kind of changes because there's cause and the conditions so many. So sometimes I saw this in some video. There's some people, saved money and they go to the Apple store to buy iPhone, and when they open and that falls, and it breaks the So the minute you have iPhone in your hand and you drops and you breaks it. So that's for the consumer. For the consumer, have to have some certain merit to be able to digest, to consume that things, and from the effect itself is also depending upon their costs and their corporate conditions. So many things together. So yeah. I remember this one, the Lama Tsongkaphas, his biography. Lama Tsongkapha and his 8 disciples always moved one place to another place, and they were resting the place, the kind of ruined house there, and they're discussing about teachings, and then while they were, in that ruined house discussing about, and there's a what called one of his disciple. I think this is he was the I don't know, it's a governor or some high kind of ranking person passing through this Lama Tsongkapha and his disciple. So he was kind of there were many people, the horses, and just he was moving and passing through from the Lama Tsongkaphas. And then one of his disciples says, so that kind of, it's for him, it appears like he has no respect to Lama Tsongkapha. And Lama Tsongkapha says, no, he didn't see us. He did not see us. And then one thing is the merit that he had to enjoy this kind of, what do you call courtesy, right? So we haven't really accumulated the merit enough to him. Therefore, we have to stay in the ruined house. So that does not mean the Lama Tsongkapha, Lama Tsongkapha, he attained within this life the enlightenment, right? Enlightened Buddhahood. But he is not enough that kind of merit to be attain enlightenment in this life. But he has the karma to that Lama Tsongkapha doesn't have it. So, so the causes and conditions, its variety is too wide and too complicated. So to detail understand how karma works, how the complexity of the law and the cause and effect. So always is only the omniscient can understand. So only right now we can understand is the cause means potential. Cause means potential to give rise. So which means the effect is not certain. And sometimes we say that karma, there's many karmas, karma that can give rise to the result or ripening result in next life, and then 2 lives, after 2 lives, or it's karma that can, give rise to the result immediately. A karma that can give rise, like the karma you have committed, right after it can ripen. So that depending on how powerful the karma is. There's some says is the history of the Devadatas, when he died, right away, his body kind of, pulled into the earth, so which means directly, right after, goes to the hell realm. So that karma is karma with certainty, with their effect. So I think that's why I say some of the arhat, they have many karma to be born in the lower realm, but because of there's no corporate condition to fertilize those karma, because you have no afflictive emotions. So afflictive emotions are the fertilize that can fertilize the seed of the karma that you have committed to fall in the lower realm. But because you have eliminated all the afflictive emotions, the karma just remain like a dry seed. So it has no function. So anyway, so this was saying The existing, non-existing is something not exists in the present time. That does not prove that things that has passed is become non-existence. And things that's not yet born, because of that, you cannot say it is non-existence. Because it is the time that is depending upon, relying upon in the present. So the coming of the tomorrow, right? Coming of the tomorrow as Monday. So it exists. Coming of Mondays exist. The existence depending upon the today, the Sunday. So every process of the Sunday, which is disintegrating, is all indicating that the coming of the Monday. So this disintegration of the Sunday is the conditioning the Monday to come. So therefore, you cannot say coming with the Monday does not exist. So everything that Sunday is happening, Sunday has sunrises, Sunday is the rain, Sunday is morning, after the morning, in the evening, after the evening, there's night. This whole, because of this past of the Saturday, without Saturday having passed, Sunday cannot have a morning, Sunday cannot have sunrise, Sunday is no morning, no afternoon, no evening. So that proves the past of the Saturday is existence. So then the present you should think the present is existing, but it exists conceptually. It never exists inherently. So if this present Sunday is inherently exist, it has to be inherent in the time. Because, right? The Sunday must be exist, inherent in hour. If the Sunday is inherent in hour, an hour has to inherent in a minute. If the minute has to inherent in a second. So there is no possible of Sunday can inherent in hour, hour inherent in a minute, minute inherent in the seconds. So the present is, again, conceptually measured, right? So you remember that the Chandrakirti's commentaries, so that the day, the 24 hours of the day as a day is not experienced but one moment of the consciousness, not the morning consciousness, not the afternoon consciousness, not the evening consciousness. If the consciousness that is in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, in the night, not witness the 24 hour as a day, and what kind of consciousness you have without morning, not in the morning, not in the afternoon. So there is no consciousness to witness the 24 hour as a day. So again, only you have to say 24 hour as a day is conceptually. Yes, thought can, measure this. Thought can imagine, conceive 24 hour as a day. So day as a whole is conceptually conceived and measured. So that's the thought. Day as a whole with 24 hours is mental projections. So mental projection does not mean it's not exist in the real. So from that we say things can be ceased to exist, but it's not a non-existing because of their result. And the result that is existing is not inherently exist because it's, instantly changing, disintegrating. Nothing standing still, enduring inherently. Nothing is born or arising inherently. Nothing has passed inherently. So if any inherent natures once it passed, it has to be because the existing of it's by itself, and the cessation of that is also by itself. So therefore, once it ceased, becomes non-existence. One is exist is by itself. Like if there's a like you see the three poles. So all three poles independent. One false, and that's false. There's nothing to do with second. It's independent. Three times it becomes independent if inherent nature in the time. If you push one pulse, you have two, right? So if you just cut it in pieces or you just burn this down and whatever, the second pulse is still there. So without that, it can exist. So without past, there is no present could exist. Without the present, there is no possible of the future can exist. So it's just all linked, and that chain of that is pictured by the thought. So the death is not a total, blank. So death is the beginning of something. So therefore, when people die, when people die, when the first they close their eye, and maybe there's less light, but when you die, the death process is more, death process, within the death process, more bright, more light, more light, more light. There's more image. So which means it's not end of the story, it's the beginning of the story. It's not like, exhaustion of the bottle lamp, it's just black.
Why do you say there's more image?
Because I've been through. So, so we died many times. You don't remember? I remember this one time, one of the Tibetan old men, he was in the hospice, right? So he was worried about, wasting money in the hospice. It's a good condition. It's almost like a hotel. He was worried about, wasting money, and I want to, save money. I want to go back to the small, more cheap. Then I told him, this is not the final die. You have to die 1,000 times, okay? So, so, so he was so convinced that, this is not one time. You have to die next time again and again and again. So die comfortably is better, And some people worry that because if they die in their house, and the house become cheaper, so they don't want to die in the house. So there's some very strange, they think there's one part they think they're going to be non-existent. One they think they still exist as owner of the house. You have any questions? So I think for me it's very, very helpful thinking that the impermanent natures. So impermanent natures, like thinking about the 3 times, how I think there's one aspect when we examine the time, and the time do not exist by their own. There is no time beyond your concept. That is another fact. So time is conceptually constructed. So now if you think conceptually constructed, if you interpret that, it's just mental projections, then nothing to do with any other conditions, only just mere, 100% purely existing through imagination. No, that is not true. So conceptually projected, measured, based on the day, the Saturday and Sunday and Monday, right? So the chain of that, one become past, one is present, one is future, is conceptually measured. So in that way, so there's less value in the time to you. Time is not really essentially the important to anything, right? So the essentially means the time by itself is not going to benefit you or harm to you. And then the second, when you think that time, the time of the duration of the time. So duration of the time, so duration means something remain, enduring. So enduring does not mean one single entity standing still. So enduring does not mean standing still. Enduring means in the present consciousness, with present consciousness, experience the disintegration of that things. Disintegration, one sees another happen, one sees it's too fast. So the thought thinks, there's one single thing is remaining for a while. For the eye, for the sensory perceptions, right, it sees whatever as it is. It is just seeing things are constantly disintegrating, constantly manifesting. Right. For the thought, because thought did not see directly, so thought assumed there is a time. There is the time of car, or there is the time of computer. There's the time of the good moment. There is the time of the bad moment that lasting for a while. So lasting for a while, there is no good moment that never really stands still. There is no bad moment standing still. Right. So then the second thing is the third thing is one ceased. So one ceased to exist, one become cease to exist. So one cease to exist does not mean that become non-existence. The results is continuously happening. So it hasn't really dissipated yet, although, only you can say, more accurately, one that has passed is no longer existing in the present time, right? In the present time, but it is not turned into non-existence because the result is continuously happening. So then, when the results to continuously happening, that proves what has ceased to exist, what has no longer found to be existing in the present time, is not yet turned into non-existence, but things that is happening in the present time is also going to produce, is in the process of going to produce what is going to be happening in the future. So, the presence, the past cause, have made this presence, therefore, that past cause is not a non-existing. The present cause is making happening of the futures, therefore, future cannot be non-existence. Right? But both past and the futures is true, is not exist in the present time. And then second, the past thing is not exist in the past. So the future things not exist in future. Some people think, the past thing is existing in the past time. So Nagarjuna says, like past Saturday and past Friday, they do not exist coexisting. They do not exist, coexist. Or if all the past is just exists in one, community, so then there must be a group of whole week stay together. So that moments become the week in a day. Right? There is no whole year that passed. 2023 is all this, 2022 and all of them. They don't really gather. Right? Some people think that first that one friend dies in that year, and after next year another friend dies. Now all the dead people are just maybe all together partying, So,
yeah.
Oh, that's good. We have died now. So the past is not coexisting with the present. Past is not also not coexisting with another past. So the exist. Now finally the exist means with perception, subjectively existence. So there is no existing of any entity by itself or inherent. With perceptions, yet something can be exist, something can have the identity. So with this, we say life is like a dream. Life is like, illusions. I heard there's one of the Indian masters. He says because the Buddhists, during the Mahavir and the Buddha Shakyamuni, all the intelligent people attracted to Buddha and Mahavir, but they all have the very basic theories and the very mathematicians with good understanding, but they never really apply to develop anything because they keep talking about the life is like a dream. Life is like a dream. So Otherwise, they may have some kind of new inventions maybe. So that's good because the life is short and it is impermanent, and life is invest to find the permanent state of peace. That is very, very important.
I didn't quite get your meaning of the. I guess you meant inventors who never invented anything because they said life is dreamlike, and I mean, where I started going when you said that, maybe I didn't hear the whole thing because I'm familiar with this instruction, regard all dharmas as dreamlike. So when you said that, I thought, well, the contemplation of that, whether they invented something or not, is that cause creates a very powerful effect and beneficial effect to regard.
No, this is like some people may think that during, and when you read the Nagarjunas and Arya, there was the logic and the reasonings. So it looks like they're very, very intelligent people. And the question is, even that time, that many intelligent people, so why not they invent something new, kind of scientific, like a car or aeroplane or something that is the scientific, physical kind of development. So the reason some masters says, because they keep talking about life is like a dream, so they could not really spend time or they waste time to make something, beside the meditations and contemplation. So otherwise, the Ayurveda was pretty much explaining, the very basic understanding of this, what's that? Like negation of the objectivities, how things manifest, like the analyzing of the colors. And he based on the sutras, the right saving sutra, and then he, explained a little bit more profound, right? And very subtle explanations about the color is not really inherently exist, but color exists, in the context of the light, space, and form and eye sense powers. So even that time, they understands there is no color that exists by itself. So yeah, that's the. So Nagarjuna is stating here that if having asserted intrinsic existence of things, one accepts that something that exists previously later become non-existing or is impermanent in the sense of having disintegrated, this would constitute an nihilism view. So Nagarjuna's kind of saying that he implying that, medieval autonomous schools, Sodhantika school, Mayanola school, so when they talk about impermanence, something that is, disintegrated. So although Vaibhashika school also says the karma that is, like the previous life karmas. So it is no longer functioning right now, but to think that karma is karma is giving rise to the result. Every result in this life is produced by the karma. So they says the karma, although it has disintegrated, but it exists in another level. It exists as a, this is like as a bank statement, So bank statements is just statement. It's just a record. It's just a record. It exists. So Vaibhashika school easily can be, convinced by non-Buddhist schools. So that records of what you have done in the past life is registered in the Bhagavan or the God. If non-Buddhist says, the Vaibhashika school has no idea. We cannot proper the explanations. So it's just bank statement written. Where it's written? In the space, or so how can that be remain written? How can that be recorded? So if non-Buddhist school says that recorded in the Bhagavan or the God or the creators, so the Vaibhashika school may say, I think so too. So that's the disintegrations. Their disintegrations become, So these are all Prasangika school. Although they did not really accept disintegration is non-existing, the Prasangika school pushing that you end up in the consequences you will be accepting this, because things that has manifest, things that arises, you say it is inherent. So when the things disintegrate, and that disintegration is by itself inherently, so it is that disintegration is nothing to do with their effect. Effect is not conditioning this disintegration of the cause. So the cause being disintegrated inherently. So once by itself become disintegrated, then that become the non-existence. Right? So and the Prasangika school says, what the cause that which is in the process of disintegrations, and at the end, finally it ceases to exist. When the moment, it's minute or the second that ceases to exist, that moment is also beginning of effect. So it's simultaneously happening. The cause ceases to exist, very moment, effect manifests. There is no gap between cause and effect. So when there is no gap, so the cause defined by the effect defined by the cause. So there is no need third conditions as a creator, or like bank statements or recorded. So there's no need. The present going to be ceased to existing is, being connecting to the next result. Like, when you fertilize the fruit tree in the last month, when this month the blooming the flowers, so there is the connections. There's this year the result, this year the fruit is more sweeter or bigger, right? So it's all because the last month or 2 months before you have fertilized. So within there is no gap. It just connect to that, and then process happening. There is no need. So third person as a witness.
Does that connect to arising from other?
Yeah, it's the fifth conditions. If there is fifth condition, there must be someone who witnessed that and said, "Oh yes, this time this the fruit should be bigger because I witnessed he fertilized that month." And sometimes he forgot which month, right? So then there's problems. And the fruits say, "I'm not sure I'm going to give a big fruit or a small fruit because no one is telling me." So the creator is, it's kind of, the concept of creator is, they think it's required because there's to connect things, So I think between Saturday and Sunday, there must be creator. We need creator to remind us today is Sunday, So dough to turn into bread. Yeah.
You must be my creator because you keep reminding me.
I'm the fertilizer. I'm the farmer to growth of the berry. So this, when you again and again this contemplate on this thing, then you can sense that many of the things that we kind of, some of the exaggerations is, kind of maybe sometimes it's necessary for the people to have to make sense. Things that, like they cannot really imagine the karma that you committed in many lives before. Why is it happening right now? You have no answer. But so to make you believe, and then easily we can convince saying, "Oh, here's the creator, God is there. And he remembers everything. He was there all the time." Right? So, and yes, it makes sense. Do things then, So, but Saturday and Sunday, you may probably God is no need because I can remember, I can mark on the calendar. So I don't need God to remind me. So, and sometimes we forgot things, right? Sometimes we forgot, forgot the dinners. So then you just check your belly. It is empty or not. So right. So so you don't need God. Did I eat or not? If the God is there to always to remind you, then probably nobody can get sick, diabetic. So God always says, "Oh, if you eat continuously, then you may get sick. You may get this problem, right?" So He is not saying that. He only says bad karma. So you did very bad things in many lives. I remember that. So sometimes these are important, and then also the stories are for very ordinary and who like cow herders was no time to think about it. But by believing in the law and cause effect, so it's very beneficial not for one individual, for the whole community, whole nations. So if whole nation believe in there's some kind of law and cause effect, so that's culture they created that continues to benefit, although that's based on exaggerations. So like a lot of the death. So from the beginning, there was this, there is no such Lord of the death other than the impermanent nature. But some people, it's very useful to say there's a Lord of the death. He comes and he sent his people, to to remind you this is your time now. Go to next life. So people say, oh, there's the death. So only idea of that story is to remind you someday you will die. So at this point in the commentary, the Chandrakirti cites the passage from the Fundamental Wisdoms where the Nagarjuna stated that agent and the acts done agent and acts done are like when the Buddha manifests one emanations, right? The emanations, who in turn manifest another emanations. So this is like a dream-like action phenomena, one karma. So that karma is again allowing another karma to manifest. That karma is also manifesting another karmas. Like Buddha's emanations, and that emanation creates another emanations. So like in that Mahayana Sutra, when the Buddha was giving the very teaching on the dependent arising, and the group of monk who was, very emphasized on the kind of, they think it's a very essential in meditation, single point of meditations. So they have only knowledge about how to single point of meditate. They have not much the knowledge about 16 attributes, the Four Noble Truths, then emptiness. They have no. So when they joined in their teachings, and they thought, oh, this is not making sense at all to them. So maybe this teaching is not for us. It's just group stand up and went back. And then the Buddha said the emanations, So that emanations, when they are walking back to their place, and he was there, and he reminds, why you come back? And he says, oh, all the teachings that Buddha today is not really, we don't understand at all. Maybe it's not for us. And then, he kind of, more lucidly, right? They explain what that dependent arising means, something that's very suitable for them. And then they gradually understand, they kind of starting making sense, and then go back to the teachings. So the emanations create another emanations. So like right now, it's like emanations, it's just an emanation, like some mind, like anger or word, the faithful minds developed in your mind, mental state, and that, how's that? Force your, whole, like mouth and tongues, and then talk about the virtuous things. But although there is no, agents, which is, behind the tongue, not behind your throat. So there is no person at all, but because of the state of mind that is powerfully hijacked the activities of the mouth, and that brings the virtues, the concept. And then some angers the mental state, that again the manifest, and that creates another manifestation of the non-virtuous expressions. So that non-virtuous expressions and produces the non-virtuous, the result in other people, and bad influence on others. So it was like this is whole like like magician illusions. There's no person in it. It just uh, when you put the when you have a glass that is no color, but if you put something, the blue fabric under the glass, and then the whole glass appears as blue, and orange fabric and whole glass manifests as oranges. So the state of mind that manifests in your expression, the virtuous state and non-virtuous state. So although there is no person at all, so which means that the person or the self do not exist like a car driver that is behind the wheel. So there is no such person, right? When you become negative, when you become positive, there is no such persons like a car driver standing behind the wheel. That just it's this mental states creates the condition to express the virtuous things, non-virtuous things. Other than that, there is no independent I, the self-sufficient I. So when there is nothing from but the thought, the blind man, he projects, oh, that's me, Tenzin Sherpa is doing this. Usually in our thoughts, we call, how's that? Namto Lonjubas. Lonjubas means thought is like, person who, like when a blind person's and trying to reach somewhere, the assumptions, oh, there's the 4 steps here, there's the table, there's the, So like thought is like the blind person is most of the time thought, through assumptions, presumptions. So if the thought, the gain the realization to reveal something, which means thought is relying on logic or reasoning, then thought can proceed accurately or unmistakably. Otherwise, most of the time it's blind. Yeah, so that's the Chandrakirti's points. When the functions is presented in the context of no intrinsic existence, there is no danger of the following nihilisms. In brief, if one fails to negate existing by virtue of the intrinsic characteristic on the conventional level, so one will fail to realize extremely subtle level of selflessness. So this it would also become the difficult to ensure that the subtle degree of the eternal, eternalist and the nihilist view do not arise within one's mind. Therefore, the benefit that comes from eliminating that object of negations on the conventional level is the relinquishing of all eternalist and nihilist views. So I think last Friday His class is also talking about that. So we have to negate intrinsic natures, not in ultimate level, even in the conventional levels. So when you're negating in the conventional level intrinsically, at the same time, you are so comfortable depositing the conventional reality through dependent rising, which means you are not falling in nihilisms, you're perfectly balancing in, the absence of intrinsic nature and conventional reality. Sometimes it's very good because if you conventionally conventional negating the intrinsic nature, like sometimes some like color, smell, taste, tactilities. So it's logically proving, this is not truly exist. This is not inherently exist. But each eye consciousness, nose consciousness says, yes, it is the reality. I am seeing it. I'm smelling it. So between that, it keeps you in the balance. So although it's not theoretically cannot be exist in and of itself, but it seems to, for the eye consciousness, yes, it has some kind of intrinsic nature. So which means, what you have negate intrinsic quality and what can be exists for the perceptions. So then you say, oh, this is only relatively. So the relativity is relatively existing, and again, it's just the absence of intrinsic nature is theory, and relatively existing is two theory. You within the mind, but eye consciousness seems, yes, it looks like intrinsic. There's something out there. So it's then gradually, just familiarize with this more and more into this wisdom, and then you can convince the eye, you can convince the nose, the tongue. So existence is negated in the conventional levels. One will not only avoid falling into eternalism, nihilist view with respect to the ultimate truth. One will, one will escape. One will escape being
to be free of, to break
escape
free.
Being soiled by the stain of eternalist and nihilist view. You will escape being soiled by. Okay. You will be escaped from this two extreme, the soiled by stain of the eternalist view and nihilist view, with respect to the conventional truth as well. So that gradually, so when the two theory, comes to your mind. So first you have, you reason out there is no possible of any intrinsic quality in the phenomena, And the second, with seeing, oh, this kind of, the appearance of the color is, due to the contact of the sense power and the form and the light and the space. So there's a relatively existing, the theory is relatively existing and negating the intrinsic natures. And at the same time, eye consciousness directly perceiving the color and has the sense of, oh, maybe there's some kind of intrinsic there. So this is keep questioning and two theories and become so, kind of like, what do you call it, fueled by this questioning. And then kind of gradually they enhance that to realization, to wisdom. And then finally you can convince all whole perceptions. So then the, so deceptive, kind of, what do you call it, deceptive quality of the phenomena may be relinquished at the time. So, without being deceived, and everything is like now seeing like magicianal phenomena. Now you're seeing like everything is like reflections, everything like dream of phenomena. So I think once you have this kind of, once you generate this kind of very profoundly the understood or revealed, gained realizations, then you don't need to kind of meditate to eliminate afflictive emotions. So your whole mind becomes the antidote for the afflictive emotion. So there's no need any effort. So in the old time Nalendas, there's a saying, and when you sleep, you are Madhyamika. When you wake up, you are Madhyamika. When you eat, Madhyamika. When you walk, is Madhyamika. So everything is now, interdependence is so clear. Sometime during the teaching, you're Madhyamika. After the teaching, you're Vabhashika. But sometimes when the logic makes sense to you, oh, now Madhyamikas. Maybe after a few minutes, oh, you're back to. So sometimes the words you become numb to this. Sometimes when you get angry, very hate, and you become Charaka. No more believing in life, next life, previous life. All the karma is just nonsense. Become pure Charaka. And again back to become the Madhyamika. Yeah, any questions? No questions? Madhyamika, everybody. May say something. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was talking to Larry. I say Madhyamika is the middle way because I'm always confused with those terminology, which one is which.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Madhyamika is in Tibetan tongue it's Umaba. So sometimes the Madhyam in Hindi is the middle. Madhyamika did not say it's exactly medium. But when it translates in Tibetan translation is also not sure. And when it explains, talk about the middle, when the spelling is not a middle way. It's like hat. had the principle, some kind of, they translated that. Because madhyam and the madhyam, so two things. So in English, because the, maybe not following literally, so they're comfortable as the middle ways. It's very pure. So Tibetan translation still not sure. So why we say middle way as a head or the principle. And still we question the Sanskrit. Sanskrit, there is no exact word used for the madhyamika as a madhyam, as a madhyamika. So some master says, oh, it's the principle or the head is the proper word for the middle point of view, because the whole the concept, the word comes from Varana's teachings. So the Eighth Noble Truth, the perfect view. So that says, but at that time, so when he explaining the perfect view, and he also, while he was, touching on those, the first perfect view, and he also set the example like you should wear the monks the way you wear the robe, like the perfect in the middle and the head is not, not falling, like the robes has to be like a, what's that? Some the skirts, the one side's more, what do you call it? One is a little bit up, right? Monks should be wear the robes like just cut, like even. So Buddha also says this is the middle, and then the livelihood. You're living like not too much like luxury, not too poor. You have to stay in the middle. So then Buddha touched on the perfect view. So the madhyams comes from that. So that's the some master says that, but still not sure. But you still use the word uma, not the uma. Anyway. Chanju Simjo Rinpoche, Majebana, Jeju, Jevanyamba, Mebanya, Kono, Pebbles, Tonya Tawa Rinpoche, Majebana, Jeju, Jevanyamba, Mebanya, Kono, Pebbles, Pama Simja Tamja, Dedan Denju, Yato Tamja Tato, Tonga, Chanju Samba, Kama Sushu, Tata Kunja, Monam Juju, Kare Ravigo, Shinganso, Pendan Dewa, Mahu Joe, Jeresewa, Tinzin Jazu, Shabeside Bato, Denju,
May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born rise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. May the precious mind realizing emptiness not yet born rise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. Due to all these merits, may all Father and Mother sentient beings have all the happiness, and may all lower realms be in forever. Wherever there are Bodhisattvas, may all their prayers be accomplished immediately. In the sacred land surrounded by snow mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. O powerful Chandrakirti Tenzin Gyatso, remain in this world with your samsara pets.
Thank you very much. It is raining in your place, Larry?
It was pouring. It was just now it's lightened up, but it was the last few minutes. It was really heavy.
Oh, we are still drizzling.
Oh,
yeah. Okay. Anyway, we don't have any pouring rain because we are poor already. Oh, sorry.